like, oh, something I've got to ask you. And I'm like, what? Like, still sleeping from like the night before. And she just took this magazine and she fucking threw it across the room. And she's like, what the fuck is this magazine? And she goes, are you gay? What's this magazine? And I'm like, I only bought it for the Gary Barr article. That's all I bought it for.
Hello, my name is Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories they created there, and the people that they used to know. This week, we are heading to the northern Scottish city of Aberdeen for some old school drag glamour. We are talking to none other than the mama of Aberdeen's drag scene, Romy Deepcheeks, a queen who has been pioneering the art form in the city since the early noughties. We caught up to talk about the scene and discuss lost spaces, including Club 2000, Castro's, and Foundation. But in typical Lost Spaces style, we also talk about a whole host of tangentially related things, including Romy's coming out relatively late in life at 28, being excommunicated by the Mormon church, hooking up with men whilst in drag, and as a bonus, I get to ask a bunch of really ignorant sounding questions about the fine art of tucking.
Even when I'm Stephen, when I'm obviously as a bloke all the time, I'm pretty much the same as I am now. I'm sort of like, I wouldn't say I'm in your face, but like I speak to everybody and we have a laugh, and like there's always like a double entendre with everything we speak about and that kind of stuff, which is kind of what I do when I'm doing an act anyway. I don't put on like a different voice just because I'm Romy. This is how I speak anyway. You know what I mean? So how you see me on camera just now is how Romy just is.
But are you wearing heels though?
I'm not wearing heels just now. I do apologise. No, I'm not wearing heels.
Oh, you didn't go to all that effort. Oh, man.
Not just that I'm sitting down.
I put on trousers.
I have tucked though, even though you can't see. I have done the whole tucking thing.
Why?
Just because. It's just I know. Just because when I do drag, I just like to do it properly.
Does it like help you get into the mindset?
It helps kind of get into the character.
But like, doesn't it? I mean, okay, so I know this is a really tedious thing for you to discuss, but like, doesn't it hurt?
Not really.
Really?
I've been tucked for as long as I've been tucked. If you do, like I've done Pride before, and I've seen me being tucked for like 13, 14 hours.
And so when you're tucked, you can't pee.
Depends what you're wearing. Like some queens.
Okay, just to make sure that I'm not like totally making this up. So you poke your balls up inside you,
where they were before they drop down,
and then you pull the penis like
between your legs. Yeah, right between your legs, as far as you can.
Okay, so this thing like pushing it up. I think it's one of those things like maybe it just sounds like it's going to really hurt, and I just have this kind of physical response.
It doesn't hurt at all. It doesn't hurt at all.
But like, how do you know that you're pushing it in the right direction?
Kind of like, well, if you pull your dick without pushing your balls up, your balls kind of like naturally go back up to where they should anyway.
Oh, really?
Yes. If you like,
I need to spend more time with my balls.
So when you come off of this call, if you like pull your dick between your legs, they
just hang on, wait.
Stand up.
Am I doing this right?
So it's not uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sitting down. I'm like sitting on my dick just now because obviously between my legs, it's not. You can feel it, but it's not uncomfortable or anything. The first couple of times, yeah, it probably was, but as long as you tuck away properly, you don't have like any bits of like foreskin like hanging between. It depends what you use, because some queens will use like the whole duct tape thing. I don't use duct tape. I think I've used duct tape once, and I was like, that is fucking sore. I'm not using that again. So I tuck, and I just use a pair of really tight Speedos to keep everything in.
And okay, and then so when you're done and you your cock flaps back out, does everything just naturally descend, or does it take a few hours?
No, it just descends straight away.
Oh, okay.
Like, if I'm working in the bar on a Saturday night, like I don't drink loads and loads and loads, so I don't need to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
Because depending what you're wearing, you might have to take all of your clothes off to go for a piss. Now, if you're wearing like a full bodysuit, and then you've got to take off the bodysuit, and then you've got on like your tights, and underneath your tights, you've got your stuff that's keeping everything tucked away. So when I'm tucked away, I've got on a pair of Speedos, which keeps everything tucked away nice and neatly. And on top of that, I've got like a pair of Spanx to give myself a better shape. Then on top of that, I've got 2 pairs of tights. Then on top of the tights, I've got like a pair of ladies' knickers, or like a little thong or something. So there's 5 layers there keeping it all in. So after like 5 or 6 hours in the bar, by the time you go upstairs, like you do need to go to the toilet. But like like when you see a toilet and like you need to go even more, you're like, oh my god, I need to go to the toilet.
But like, okay, so my like pre-going on stage thing is like, well, whenever I'm nervous, it's just like I just pee a lot.
Yeah.
I guess that's not your thing then.
No, not at all. Like I think just because I'm used to doing it, because if I know I'm going to be working, like for example, if I'm getting ready to go to the bar, like I won't sit and like drink all night. I'll just have like a small glass of juice and just like sip on it. So I haven't got a full bladder by the time I go to the bar. But then I always make sure that while I'm getting ready, if I do need to go to the toilet, that I hold it in for as long as I possibly can. And the last thing I do before I start tucking and put anything on, like, is go for a pee, and that's me sorted for the entire night. I very, 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 very rarely have to go to a toilet break when I'm working, just because I don't need to go.
And have you ever considered, because you're wearing lots of layers anyway, just getting like some nappies?
Some nappies? I never thought about wearing a nappy. That's not my thing, dear.
I mean, it could change the act. I'm just saying, just putting it out there. So 20 years ago is when you started drag. Shall we go back in time to that moment?
Yeah, that's no problem.
What inspired you?
Well, I didn't come. This could be quite a long story, so shut me off if you want me to. Okay, so I didn't come out till I was 28. I was a late comer outer because I was married.
And that's the official term, comer outer.
Well, that's me. Well, what coming out? Yeah, that's just me coming. Yeah, comer outer. I'm just making it up. That's my official term. So that didn't happen till I was 28. And the first boyfriend that I had after the marriage split up, he took me to Funny Girls in Blackpool,
which is a big it's like an ongoing drag show.
It's like a burlesque. Burlesque. I think it runs 6 nights a week. I think it's been going for years and years and years. So he took me there this night. He goes, "You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it." And I knew I would love it, but I had no intention of ever doing it. You know what I mean? So I went in and I was just in awe of like all the drag queens, because they were so beautiful, and like the jewelry and the hair and the makeup. I'm like, oh, they're so pretty. They're so pretty. And so a couple of months later, I went back to Funny Girls with not with my boyfriend, but with like just a friend at the time. And I'm like, right, let's go to Funny Girls and let's just like buy some really cheap clothes and like a couple of cheap wigs and just like go and drag for one night only, just like to get in the swing of things.
What was your friend's response then? Were they like, "Oh, okay, fine"?
Oh, yeah, he was totally up. Yeah, he was totally up for it as well. Yeah, he totally wanted to do it. He was up for it, no problem. So we went out. We bought like proper, like the big platform heels. I bought my very first dress, which I still have to this day, although I don't wear it, but I keep it for sentimental reasons. And we bought really cheap, shitty wigs for like 15 quid. You know what I mean? Thinking they looked brilliant. We went to like a local hairdresser in Blackpool, and we're like, can we use something like this wig? And they're like, well, not very much. We'll do our best. It only cost you 15 quid, for fuck's sake. So they did what they could with it. So we went to Funny Girls, and
wait, before we get to Funny Girls, what was that like then? So I'm assuming you were in a bed and breakfast. You put the drag on for the first time.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
it was kind of like funny to begin with because we just looked like awful on the first night. You know what I mean? Because I'd never done drag before. I'd never, we hadn't been shown how to do makeup or all that kind of stuff. I mean, I went out with no tits in that night, so I was just like flat chested. You know what I mean?
So you didn't take like some socks and just shove them in?
No, I thought I looked amazing on that night. And I've got a picture from that night, and I didn't look amazing, but I thought I looked amazing. And I just went into Funny Girls, and I'm like, hey, look at me, everybody. And because obviously of the kind of bar it was, even though we looked shit, people were still like, oh yeah, you look amazing, you look great. And so two of the Funny Girls who were working, who were off duty that night, they weren't working, so they were dressed as guys, said to me and my friends, the dresses are good, the heels are good, the wigs ain't that good, your makeup's pretty shit. Come to our house tomorrow and we'll show you how to do it properly.
Oh, wow.
So they gave us their address and we met up with them the following day, and they did our makeup for us, let us borrow a couple of their wigs. We kept the same dresses and the same heels because they were fine, and we actually went out with tits this night as well. And the attention we went out on the second night was even better than the first night because we looked so much better.
Oh, wow. That's so kind. You had like fairy godmothers.
Yeah, they were really nice. I mean, the look they gave us then is not the look I use now, but it was still, at the time, it was like, yeah, loved it. So when we came back to Aberdeen, the drag scene here was completely and utterly non-existent. Mm-hmm. So again, we were like, right, let's go out on Saturday night in Aberdeen, like just for a laugh, like just once, because like it never gets done. So we went out, no one had and we were quite well known on the scene back then, but obviously as guys. And we went into the club, everyone's like, who the fuck is that? They didn't know who we were. So then, of course, when they realized who we were, and after we got such a good reception from them, I've just done it ever since. I just loved it. The whole getting dressed up, like buying new outfits, and so that was like 20 years ago. The guy who did it with me then doesn't do it now. He's moved away since. But yeah, so that was the very first time I did it.
So was it just like all systems go, like this is it, this is what I want to do? Or were there moments of like, do I, should I, can I?
Oh no, I wanted to do it because, as I said, when I was very, very small, like maybe 3-4 years old, when I went like to nursery school, there was dressing up boxes at nursery school. There was the boys' corner and there was the girls' corner. So of course all the boys stuff had the cowboys and the Indians and that kind of stuff, and the girls had like the wigs, the little tutus, the little dressing tables to like brush your long hair and everything. So every day my mum came and picked me up. The teachers my mum would be like, where's Stephen? Oh, he's in the girls' corner. He's in the girls' corner brushing his hair. So it kind of felt like, oh my god, I can actually like get dressed up and like, everyone's gonna look at me and think I look brilliant, because it's something that I'd always kind of wanted to do. But then of course the whole marriage was a different story, so I couldn't do it then.
Yeah.
I used to sneak on her like wedding dress every now and then to see what it looked like on me.
So are we able to talk about your marriage then?
Yeah, of course.
So why? Like, what happened?
Why did I get married?
Yeah.
Well, I was a teenager in the 1980s, sort of late 80s. It was very, very different back then. I was raised in quite a religious upbringing because my mum and dad are Mormons. Mm-hmm. And so I was brought up in the Mormon faith up until I was like 16. So they have certain teachings. They encourage you to get married and like have a family and all that kind of stuff. And then I got my first part-time job and kind of like fell away because all the staff used to go out drinking at the weekends and they were smoking. So I kind of like started doing that and everything. Still lived at home, obviously, with my parents. They weren't happy, but, they were happy that I wasn't bringing me any harm to myself, so to speak. And then I met the girl that I married because she was actually my boss at Wimpy where I worked.
Oh, Wimpy.
So she was like my... So yeah, Wimpy. Then it was Wimpy, and then it changed to Burger King like in the early 90s. So I kind of worked for both. But yeah, that's where we met. She was my boss at Wimpy. And back then it was like, oh my God, she's 21, you're only 16 years old. That's a 5-year difference. It's nothing these days. But back then, because I was going out with like one of the managers, they're like, oh my God, Stephen's going out with one of the managers. Why is he doing that? And she was married at the time to somebody else when we started going out with each other.
Oh wow.
So it kind of got a bit, it kind of got a bit hard as like she split from her first husband, and then me and her got together, and there was like element of fear walking down the street because her husband at the time was like after me and that kind of stuff. But it all turned out okay in there because we eventually got married after 5 years of being together. I got married when I was 21. So that was fine. So the marriage was fine. We have got two daughters out of it. So I've got a 26-year-old and I've got a 24-year-old. They both live here in Aberdeen.
So then you were married for like seven years?
7 years, yeah, from 21 to 28.
And how did it end? Was it just that you realised?
Well, I kind of realised that it was guys that I really liked. And so we were having kind of like problems anyway, just like with other things. She was like a workaholic, and she was never home for the kids, that kind of stuff. And so if there was ever an opportunity to have like a night out somewhere, maybe like a staff night out or that kind of thing, I would always go because it gave me the ideal opportunity to go like to the gay club, and that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to explore that side of things. And then I was getting to the point because I wasn't really unfaithful to her until like the last 3 months of our marriage. Up until then, for the whole 7 years we were married, I wasn't unfaithful to her at all. I like tried to fight the feelings. And then, as I say, the last 3 months I was like, oh, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. So she found out because she went snooping in some of my belongings, and she found things which she wasn't happy with.
Were they publications? Were they toys? Were they love letters?
No, they weren't toys. All it was a copy of Attitude magazine. That's all it was. And she found it because I bought it, and then I hid it like in the bottom of my chest of drawers so she wouldn't find it.
And you only bought it for the articles, right?
Of course. Yeah, I didn't buy it for the adverts or anything. I actually remember the issue that I bought was it was an interview with Gary Barlow, and he was right on the front page. So when she found this magazine, which I didn't know because I was working the night she found it, it wasn't until the following morning I kind of like come in from work from late the night before, and she put the kids off the childminder, and she's like, oh, something I've got to ask you. And I'm like, what? Like still sleeping from like the night before. And she just took this magazine and she fucking threw it across the room. And she's like, what the fuck is this magazine? And she goes, are you gay? What's this magazine? And I'm like, I only bought it for the Gary Barlow article. That's all I bought it for. So she then ripped out the Gary Barlow pages and she threw them at me. She goes, here's your fucking Gary Barlow interview. And I can't remember what happened with the magazine. I really can't remember. But that's how she found out, because she was like, she found it at the bottom of my drawer.
And is Gary Barlow a hill that you're prepared to die on?
I didn't even like him, for fuck's sake, now, you know what I mean?
Okay, phew.
Yeah. But I was getting, when she found that, I was getting to the stage where I was like, right, I need to tell her, because I'd been with a couple. I think I'd only been with one guy at this point. But there was another guy who was interested in him, and I'm like, I'm not going to go with you or be your partner until I've told her what's going on. So it was getting to the stage that was going to have to happen. And then, of course, she beat me to it when she found the bloody magazine. And from there, kind of went downhill for her, but it didn't go downhill for me. I was having quite a lot of fun.
So then you did have that conversation because of that magazine. It wasn't just like, no, don't be silly. And then you repressed it for a while longer.
I did kind of deny it. I'm like, this is stupid. It was stupid. But because I'd been having I'd had a couple of staff nights out. Well, that's what I'd said. And I hadn't come home a couple of nights. And I guess I think she could sense it that I wasn't that I was anxious about something, because I knew I was going to have to tell her, but I thought I was hiding it quite well. But obviously I wasn't hiding it that well, because she knew there was something wrong. And then when she found that magazine, she was like, yeah, you are.
There's a funny thing, isn't there? To not have to come out and say it, to not have to come out and say it.
Yeah.
You kind of lay these clues subconsciously. It's really fascinating. Yeah. So what was the fallout of that like?
I stayed with her for another month after that, because she was kind of hoping it was just a phase I was going through. And it's like, I'm 28. It ain't a phase, love. It ain't a phase. It's what I want. But stayed for another month or so with her in the home which we had together. And then she could obviously see that I wasn't going to change my mind. I didn't want to stay with her. So I had to move back to my folks' house for a few months until I got my own place and everything.
What was it like then moving back into your parents' house, and what was their reaction?
It was fine. I mean, they supported anything that I obviously said or did, but they were still like Mormons at this point as well. I mean, so I was still a Mormon at this point as well. And obviously something which you're not allowed. You're not allowed to be a homosexual if you're a Mormon. So then I had to go through the whole process of going to what we call our bishop and speaking to him and letting him know. I had to go through a whole excommunication process. So I was no longer sort of like banished from the church and everything.
Well, there's a process. It's not just like you're excommunicated. See ya. Like do you have to fill in forms?
No, it's not so much fill in forms. You know, so much they don't fill in forms. They hold like it's what they call like a church court, and they have like all these people here. They have like the head of the Mormon church, who was the head of the Mormon church in Aberdeen at that time, and he kind of like asks you questions. And they have like 6 guys speaking for you and 6 guys speaking against you. And then you've got to like stand up and like say like how you're feeling and like why you're doing this, and they give you challenges. They give you like stuff to read out the Bible. You read the stuff out the Bible, and you'll find your answer from God and blah blah blah. I'm like, I won't find my answer from God because I'm 28 and this is what I want to do. I'm not gonna like. And they gave me a deadline as well. They're like, they will give you like 2 weeks to do all of this, and if you come back to us in 2 weeks' time and you still, doing what you're doing, that'll be the end of your membership. So at the end of those 2 weeks, at the end of those,
so these like the 6 guys and the 6 guys, was it like a debate? They were like for and against.
It's like they kind of, kind of. And then I could take people in with me to speak like for me as well. So like my dad came in with me, and my sister came in with me as well, my younger sister. Like me and my dad never had. I was closer to my mum than I was to my dad. Like, cause I never, even when I was younger, I never liked the rough and tumble. I didn't like things like the football and the rugby and any sporty things or physical things. And my dad loved all that sort of stuff, and I just wouldn't do it with him because I just didn't like doing it. You know what I mean? So when he came in to sort of like speak for me, like he referred back to my childhood, saying like, Stephen's trying to do the right thing here. And he's always had like such a sensitive nature and be quite a gentle little lad. And, so this hasn't really come as a surprise to us. And then he broke down in tears, like in front of all the guys that were there, because I was like, oh my God, what are you crying for? So he got quite emotional as well. And then my sister, she started crying because my dad started crying. Then I was crying because they were crying. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
Because like because the Mormon side of things was like, I would never ever go back. I wouldn't be allowed to go back. There is still a few of the things which they teach that I believe in. Like they're quite a family orientated like religion, and like my family's important. My family's still important to me now. So there's a couple of things which I would miss, and it was such a big part of my life for such a long time. That's why the 3 of us got so emotional. Like, because I got married, because when I got married in the Mormon church as well, and then my wife at the time, she also joined and became a Mormon. So we were like one big happy Mormon family for a very short time. Only for a short time, though.
So, and then what was your speech then?
What, at the church court?
Yeah. Were you just like, listen, I just want to suck dick, let me go?
Oh, God. But I obviously wasn't quite as blunt and frank as that.
I mean, you would have saved time.
Because when you have these church courts, you don't have to go to represent yourself, but they will still go ahead and do it anyway. And a lot of people, for example, if you commit adultery, you would get thrown out of the Mormon church. There's a few things you can do to get thrown out of the Mormon church, and some folk don't turn up. And I'm like, fuck you, I'm not going to sit there like when I'm not there and let you guys speak about me. So I'm going to go and I'm going to speak for myself and let you know how I feel and what I'm going to be doing. And so that's exactly what I did.
So if you chose not to go and they held the court without you, would they then like send you like minutes from the meeting?
They wouldn't send you the minutes as such, but they would send you a letter saying, we held the court in your absence. This is the decision that was made, and you're now like excommunicated, no longer a member of the church. I think I've still got the letter somewhere. I think I'd probably just keep for nostalgic reasons. I'd have to break it out somewhere.
We are excommunicating you because you are a buffter.
Because you're homosexual, because you're a bump basher.
Wow. That's so formal.
I know, very formal. Very formal. My mum and dad are still Mormons now. I mean, they joined in 1971 when I was literally just been born when they joined. So they've been Mormons for like 50 years.
And so what does that mean then for your relationship with your parents?
Oh, it's absolutely fine. It hasn't hindered us whatsoever. Because even going back 20 years, when I did come out, they made it very clear and very plain. Then it doesn't matter who you are or what you are. You're still our son. We still love you.
So
I'm like, look at me now. Look at me now.
Are you sure about that? Yeah. Okay, so let's then go back to drag and your first time in drag.
Okay.
So you were saying that there was just like no drag scene in Aberdeen at that time.
Yeah.
And so then was there a stigma around being a drag queen?
Not really. It was more of a fascination because there was no one doing it in Aberdeen at all. The whole club were just like fascinated with it. Because when I've got all my gear on anyway, I'm 6'2" without any heels on anyway. So when I wear my 5'5" heels and my massive hair, from the top of my hair down to the floor, I'm about 7'2". So I'm this big fucking huge queen that just like walks around. So it was more of it wasn't a stigma, it was more of a fascination. And like, because first of all, they're like, what the fuck's that? And I'm like, it's me.
Yeah, that must have been really weird. Like the way that people suddenly interact with you in a very different way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
What happened on that first night then when you went out? Were you just like the belle of the ball?
Oh yeah, I've still got I'm sure I've still got them. I've still got pictures. Still got the outfits and everything. I wouldn't wear them now, but I just like keep it for nostalgic reasons. But when I went out for the first time in Aberdeen, we obviously had our little like session with the drag queens in Blackpool by that point. So we had a bit more of a better idea how to do the makeup. We still weren't. We still looked pretty shit, even though, but we looked better than we did on the first night.
Well, it's a rite of passage. You have to have like a few months of being crunchy.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And then how quickly did you go from just swanning around the club to performing?
That was a good couple of years because I was just literally just going out on a Friday and Saturday night, just getting dragged up. I wasn't earning money. I wasn't working doing it. I just wanted to go out because I just wanted to get glammed up. So I'd go out every weekend, and that's how my collection of clothes started building up. I started getting wigs, which were a little bit better. I had a friend who would style them for me, whatever. So I was getting to look better at doing it. And so it wasn't until one day we went to the club one night and they were doing a shag tag the next weekend, and the owner came up to me and he's like, "We need a hostess to do this shag tag." He goes, "You stand at the door, you can hand out the numbers."
What's shag tag?
A shag tag is... You've never heard of a shag tag? A shag tag is when...
Should I be ashamed of myself?
No! So a shag tag is when, like you go into the club and as each person comes to the club, you give them a number.
Oh, is it like a traffic light kind of party?
I guess so. So if you see the guy of the number you like, you would like send him a message, or... they would have like a big notice board on the back of a dance floor. So if you saw, say, you like number 14, you would go and leave a message for number 14 on the notice board, and then you'd go and check the notice board. You'd have to go try and find the person who left the message for you. So
it's like lo-fi grinder.
Yeah, basically, yeah. but just written on bits of paper. So I did. So that was the first night that I earned money doing it, and then from then on.
What were you doing?
Oh, for the shag tag, I was just standing handing. I was literally just in the door, like just welcoming people, just handing the numbers out. That was about it.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't performing and stuff. I wasn't singing and performing and stuff like that. So I didn't really do that in the early days.
You weren't like getting the message from the board and like going and finding number 10 and being like, number 15 left you this message.
No, I was leaving that for them to do. I probably would do that now, but it was my very first night, and although I loved getting dressed up, I was kind of like, oh my God, I'm getting paid for actually doing something that I like doing. I was actually quite nervous on the first night, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that was the very first night I did. I got paid for it, and then from then, just started getting work and gigs in all the time.
What is the scene like in Aberdeen then? Is it very incestuous and small? Sorry, it's very
nice.
leading,
I wouldn't say it's incestuous, but it is quite a small scene, because we've only got the bar that I currently work in. It's only got a capacity of about maybe 200. Mm-hmm. So it's not a huge. It is nice because it's quite intimate, and it's the bar that's been in existence for the longest on the gay scene. All the others might have only lasted like a couple of years and they close down or they catch fire. But Cheers has been on the go now for 14, 15 years. it's quite a nice wee scene, but sometimes you do think, well, Aberdeen probably is big enough to cope with like more than one gay club. But as people are loyal to, when the new one opens, they'll go to the new one.
So Castro's, how long did it last? How long was it around?
Only a good maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, but it was. But as I say, it was one of my favorite clubs because that was where like Romy started to flourish. That's why it's got some happy memories for me.
Mm-hmm. How did her flourishing impact on your day-to-day life?
I think it made me probably realize who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be, because I think I've been held back for so long through like the married years and like the Mormon years. And looking back on it now, I think I said earlier on, I probably knew back then, back in the 80s, that I probably was gay, but like just did nothing about it back then. So I didn't realize what the feelings were. So it's definitely helped to shape me as a person today. Yeah, and I'm definitely happy with the queen that I've become.
How are your kids with your drag?
Oh, they're fine. It doesn't bother them at all. It doesn't bother them in the slightest. They've always known that I've done it since I started doing it. And it doesn't.
Who do they like hanging out with most?
Well, Romy doesn't really hang out at home very much because I've got no one here just now. Because my daughters don't live here, so I'm just here myself just now. But Romy doesn't really hang out at home very much because as much as I love doing it, it is a relief when you come home and just take all the gear off after like a long, hot, sweaty night. That's there is a relief to get everything off. But they're fine with it because my oldest daughter, she's quite a party animal. So if she's in town, like some of her friends will be like, "Oh, let's go see your dad. Let's go see your dad." And she's like, "Oh, must we?" In a nice way, of course.
Oh yeah, and that kind of embarrassment that only a daughter can have.
Yes, they're totally fine with that. Absolutely fine with that.
And so Castro's was a magical place, but it
burnt.
It shone brightly and briefly.
Yeah, and then fucking burnt to the ground.
And then it burnt to the ground, and then Foundation sprung up.
Yes.
So
well, there was another club between there, but Foundation was a good club because the layout was all good. It had like a separate drinking area, a separate dance floor area. It was really big compared to other like the little pokey clubs which we had in the past. And that lasted a good few years as well, because I was also working in the bar that I'm in just now. This is the only time in Aberdeen when we had a bar. The bar that I work has also got a club upstairs, and that worked along with Foundation for a good couple of years. And then it ended up being Foundation that fizzled out because I think the guy who owned it owed too much money to somebody. That's what happened, I think. So it went bust.
Ah. So are there any like stories or anything, like any kind of nights that you particularly remember in Castro's or in Foundation?
Well, ones that I can repeat.
Ones that you're happy for people to hear about, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's quite a few. I was working in Cheers one night. And this guy, I used to run a quiz night on a Thursday, which I don't do anymore, but I used to do a quiz night on a Thursday. And this guy used to come in every single Thursday night. And he was just like fascinated by me. Like he wasn't like a pain in the ass or anything. He would buy me a drink, and like every week he would say to me, like, "Can I take it, Aberdeen? Do you want to come home with me?" And every week I would say, "No, it's fine. I'm not coming home with you." Anyway, this one night I'm like, "Oh fuck it, I'm going to go home with him." He's been asking me every week for the past fucking God knows how long. I'm going to go home with him. Of course, I went back to his.
So like a pity fuck.
Yeah, I'm like, just get out with it, it's fine. So I went back to his, and so I started obviously taking off my bottom half, but he had a thing which I didn't realize until this. He had a thing for the tights. So he's like, he's like, will you keep on your tights? And I'm like, how the fuck are you supposed to fuck me if I've got my tights on? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll keep my tights on. And then he ended up ripping them. And my tights cost like £15 a pair, so I was really upset that he ripped my. I was really upset that he ripped my tights. And then I remember, so that was fine. And then I remember I had to get myself home, and I had been drinking this night, so I didn't have my car with me.
So did you say to him, "Look, these tights are expensive. You need to buy me a new pair"?
Oh no! I think by this point, I think by this point, I think that was the last time that I probably went with a guy in drag, and at that point, I'm like, I just fucking want to go home because you fucking ripped my tights. I just want to get out of here. I said that to myself.
So that's how memorable the shag was then, because you were worried, you were worried about your tights.
I didn't even think we got that far because I was like pissed off they'd ripped my tights. So I had like I used to use like the same taxi company all the time. So all the drivers all knew me. Mm-hmm. So I got into the car that night and I was always very obviously pristine and proper and always looked very, serene. But this night I got out of a taxi, my lippy was down here, my wig was all fucking wonky, and the taxi driver knew me. He's like, Romy, he goes, what's wrong with you tonight? And I'm like, just fucking get me home and stop speaking to me. So I'm sure that was the last night that I did that. And then after that, I then progressed on to like the bigger wigs and the expensive jewellery and the expensive dresses getting made for me. So
there's no way anyone's touching that, because if they
no way, no one's touching. There's no one touching my fucking weave. No chance. Not a chance.
Oh, that is really interesting. It kind of makes you, navigate through the club in a very different way, doesn't it? Like, don't touch me. Do not get your drink near me. Don't come near me.
Well, that's what it's like now. Because before it would be like, before I like rip my wig off, I could try it on, and now I'm literally like, seriously, don't fucking touch me. I mean, I'm not like, people just know. People are like, don't touch Romy's weave. Don't touch Romy's weave. Like we've got like a dressing room at the bar that I work in. And I'm the only queen that works there just now. But in the past, when there's been other queens, they leave all the stuff lying around, and they're trying each other's wigs on, and they're like, you won't do that with Romy because she'll actually fucking batter you if you fucking touch her wig.
Do you have any memories of clubbing in Aberdeen? Have you ever tried tucking, maybe? Do you have anything that you want to say about this episode? If you do, I would love to hear from you. Get in touch and let's have a chat about the show and where you think we should go next on Lost Spaces. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with the user handle Lost Spaces Pod. And whilst you're there, say hello to Romy on Instagram. Her user handle is Miss Romy 14. That's MISSROMY 14. And if you miss any of this, if you're on the road, I will make sure to put this in the show notes. Lost Spaces is not only a podcast, but a concept record as well. I have been writing songs about queer venues and the people who used to live their lives there, and will be releasing songs over the next year. You can hear the first single, Well Grown Boys, which is also playing underneath my talking right now, on all good streaming platforms. If you liked this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, left a review on Apple Podcasts, or just told people who you think might be interested in giving it a little listen to. I am Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.